Listen, just for a moment. Let your awareness stretch out and simply listen to the world around you. Even in the quietest of rooms, there is a hum. It is the distant, relentless vibration of traffic on an unseen highway. It is the subtle, mechanical breathing of a refrigerator in the corner. It is the phantom buzz of a device in your pocket, vibrating with the invisible weight of 1,000 urgent demands. But underneath this physical, auditory landscape lies a heavier, much more invasive frequency. It is the deafening roar of modern existence. We wake up to the glaring light of screens, thrust immediately into a turbulent current of expectations. We consume tragedy, comparison, and manufactured urgency before our feet even touch the bedroom floor. The dawn breaks, not with the gentle, gradual chorus of birdsong as it did for our ancestors. Instead, it breaks with a sudden, jarring chime, demanding our immediate surrender to the day. We are a species that has forgotten how to move at the speed of nature. We have replaced the rhythm of the sun and the moon with the frantic ticking of a digital clock that never sleeps. Are you running from something? Or are you running toward something? Most of the time, the lines blur entirely, and the sheer velocity of living becomes a twisted kind of survival mechanism. There is a profound exhaustion that permeates our generation, a weariness that sleep alone can no longer cure. It is a soul-deep fatigue. It is born not from physical labor, but from the unbearable weight of perpetual, unavoidable motion. We are told, by a society obsessed with productivity, that to rest is to fall behind. We are conditioned from a very young age to believe that stillness is synonymous with stagnation. And so, we keep moving. We pack our schedules, our minds, and our fragile hearts to the absolute brim, terrified of the empty spaces, because we harbor a secret, collective fear. We fear that in those empty spaces, the echoes of our unhealed wounds might finally be heard. We fear that if we stop, if we truly stop, we will have to face the stranger staring back at us in the mirror. I have felt this vibration in my own chest. It feels like the frantic, desperate fluttering of a bird trapped behind the cage of the ribs. It beats its wings against the bone, asking a silent, agonizing question. When does it stop? When do we get to take off the armor? When do we get to just be? The instinct, naturally, is to flee. When the noise of life becomes too much, the fantasy of escape takes a fierce hold on our imagination. We dream of an isolated cabin deep in the northern woods. We fantasize about a deserted, sun-drenched beach with no cell service. We romanticize the idea of a monastery shrouded in thick mountain mist, far away from the reach of emails and obligations. We operate under the desperate illusion that if we can just change our geography, we can somehow change our internal weather. But have you ever noticed what actually happens when you finally get that silence? You book the ticket, you strip away the daily distractions, you turn off the phone, you sit alone in a quiet room, and suddenly, the noise inside your own head amplifies to an agonizing, unbearable volume. The past regrets begin to scream for your attention. The future anxieties whisper viciously in the dark. The to-do lists, the unresolved conflicts, the harsh self-judgments, they all rush in to fill the vacuum. The physical world around you may be completely quiet, but your inner world reveals itself to be a raging, chaotic tempest. We discover, often with profound and terrifying disappointment, that we packed our own chaos in our suitcases. We realize that we are the architects of our own internal cacophony. The great Stoic philosopher Seneca once noted in his letters that traveling cannot cure the soul. He wrote that wandering from place to place will not bring peace, because wherever you go, you take yourself with you. The mind is a relentless projector. It casts its internal state onto the external canvas of reality. If the mind is fractured, the most beautiful sunset in the world will appear broken and inadequate. If the heart is racing with unaddressed fear, the quietest forest will feel like a place where you are being hunted. We simply cannot outrun our own shadow. The faster we run, the closer it follows. Consider the ancient, timeless tale of the devoted seeker. The seeker lived in a bustling, prosperous, ancient city, a place of immense wealth and immense noise. His heart was heavy with the endless chatter of merchants haggling, politicians arguing, and the constant clatter of industry. Desperate for true peace, he abandoned his worldly life, giving away all his possessions. He traveled for many agonizing months on foot, enduring freezing winds and treacherous paths. His destination was the highest peak of the Himalayas, where legend spoke of a sacred cave of absolute, divine silence. Upon finally finding it, exhausted but hopeful, he sat down on the frozen stone floor. He closed his eyes in the pitch-black cold, ready at last to touch the divine emptiness. Days passed in total isolation, but the silence he sought did not bring the peace he desired. Instead, stripped of all external stimulation, his senses turned violently inward. The seeker began to hear the rushing of his own blood through his veins, loud and terrifying as a waterfall. He heard the thudding of his own heart, echoing like a massive war drum against the stone walls of the cave. His mind, desperate for something to chew on, tormented him with memories of the city he had left behind. It magnified every petty argument he had ever had. It replayed every mistake, every lost opportunity, every moment of shame, projecting them onto the dark walls of his mind. Driven nearly to madness by the overwhelming noise of his own isolated existence, he fled the cave. He ran recklessly down the mountain, tears freezing on his cheeks, feeling utterly defeated by the universe. At the base of the mountain, shattered and exhausted, he collapsed in the center of a chaotic village marketplace. It was the middle of the day, and the market was a sensory explosion. Children were shouting and chasing each other through the mud. Wild dogs were barking furiously over scraps of food. Wooden carts were clattering violently over uneven cobblestones, and vendors were screaming their prices. Yet, in the very center of this overwhelming chaos, the seeker noticed an old, blind monk sitting on a small wooden mat. The monk was drinking tea from a cracked clay cup, and he radiated a stillness so profound, so dense and real, that it seemed to anchor the very earth beneath him. The air around the monk felt completely untouched by the frenzy of the market. The seeker gasped for breath, crawling toward the old man. He asked, his voice cracking with desperation, how the monk could possibly find peace in such a deafening, chaotic place. He wept as he confessed that even the silent, isolated mountain had offered him no refuge from the noise. The wise monk took a slow sip of his tea, turning his blind eyes toward the seeker. He smiled, a gentle, understanding curve of the lips that seemed to hold the warmth of the sun. "Silence, my friend, is not an empty room," the monk said softly, his voice carrying effortlessly under the noise. "It is not the absence of sound. It is not the cessation of movement, nor is it the act of running away from the world. True silence is the complete, unconditional acceptance of whatever is happening in this exact moment. When you fight the noise, you create a second, much louder noise within yourself. You create the noise of resistance. But when you let the noise simply pass through you, when you do not grab onto it or push it away, you become the empty sky. And the sky does not mind the clouds that drift through it, no matter how dark or stormy they may be. Herein lies the ultimate, beautiful paradox of stillness. Stillness is not the act of stopping. If you try to force yourself to stop thinking, your mind will violently rebel. Stillness is the complete absence of resistance. When you stop resisting reality, when you cease fighting the rushing current of the river, you finally begin to float. This is the core principle of right mindfulness. Mindfulness has been deeply misunderstood in our modern, goal-oriented world. We are sold the idea that mindfulness is a tool to optimize our brains, a way to become more productive, or a method to erase negative thoughts. We treat meditation like a mental vacuum cleaner, trying to suck up all the dirt so we can be empty. But right mindfulness is not an escape from reality. It is the most intimate, courageous engagement with reality possible. It is the willingness to sit with things exactly as they are, without demanding that they be different. This brings us to a profound realization about our own emotional anatomy. We suffer because we deeply, fundamentally, mistake ourselves for our thoughts. We believe the narrative that if we feel anxious, we times are times anxiety. We believe that if a dark thought crosses our mind, our soul must be dark. But there is an ancient metaphor that acts as a soothing balm for the restless, terrified soul. Imagine, in your mind's eye, the vast, boundless expanse of the ocean. On the surface, the ocean is entirely subject to the chaotic whims of the weather. Fierce, unpredictable winds whip up terrifying, towering waves. Massive hurricanes tear across the water, creating a violent frenzy of white foam, crashing water, and deafening roars. Ships are tossed about like toys, fighting desperately for survival in the violent chop of the storm. If you were a creature that only ever lived on the surface of the ocean, you would believe a terrifying lie. You would believe that the ocean is inherently violent, dangerous, and constantly at war with itself. But if you have the courage to dive beneath the surface, if you let yourself sink 10 feet, 20 feet, 50 feet down into the cool, dark water, the turbulence immediately begins to fade. The deeper you go, the quieter it becomes. Down in the vast, unfathomable deep, there is an ancient, unbroken tranquility. The massive storms raging furiously above do not disturb the profound silence of the ocean depths. The deep water does not fight the storm on its surface. It does not complain about the wind. It does not try to push the waves away. It simply holds it all. It holds the chaos within its massive, silent embrace. You must understand this deeply and truly. You are not the weather on the surface of your mind. You are not the frantic waves. You are the deep water. Your fleeting thoughts, your daily anxieties, the endless lists of tasks, the heavy opinions of other people. These are just the waves. They are temporary disturbances on the surface of your consciousness. They rise with sudden intensity, they crest, they break, and inevitably, they fall away and dissolve back into the water. Right. Mindfulness is the courageous practice of dropping the anchor into the deep water. It is the gentle, patient, daily discipline of noticing the storm without allowing yourself to be swept away by it. Can you observe your own panic rising in your chest without panicking about the fact that you are panicking? Can you watch your sadness float into your awareness like a dark, heavy cloud, knowing absolutely that the sky is not the cloud? This is the secret to finding stillness in a world that refuses to stop moving. The Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu once asked a question that echoes through the centuries. Do you have the patience To wait till your mud settles and the water is clear? Can you remain unmoving till the right action arises by itself? When our minds are agitated, it is like a glass of water scooped from a muddy puddle. The more we stir the water, trying frantically to force the dirt to the bottom, the murkier it becomes. Our attempts to fix our minds with more thinking only create more muddy water. The only way for the water to become clear is to set the glass down, to leave it alone, to let gravity and time do the work. When we stop interfering with our own minds, the mud naturally settles to the bottom. Clarity is not something you achieve through effort. It is what remains when effort is abandoned. We do not need to pause the spinning world to find our stillness. We do not need the universe to quiet down so that we can finally rest. Because we carry our sanctuary within us at all times, in all places. It is an inner citadel, a sacred temple built entirely of breath and conscious awareness. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, a man who ruled half the known world and commanded armies amidst constant war and plague. He knew this truth better than anyone. He wrote that people seek retreats in the country, by the sea, or in the mountains. But he recognized that nowhere can a person find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than within their own soul. He urged himself to constantly grant himself this retreat, and thus renew himself. The inner citadel is always open, its doors never locked. The next time the world feels like it is spinning too fast, do not try to put up walls to block it out. Walls take immense energy to maintain. Walls can be breached. Walls can be broken down by the relentless battering ram of life. Instead of building walls, become like water. Become entirely permeable. Let the noise of the world, the demands, the slights, the rush of time pass right through you. Let it pass through you like a strong wind passing through the flexible branches of an ancient willow tree. The branches may sway deeply. They may dance wildly in the gale. They may even lose a few leaves in the struggle. But the massive roots of the tree remain firmly, unshakably planted in the dark, quiet, nourishing earth. I invite you right now, in this very moment, to take a conscious breath. Do not try to change the way you are breathing. Just notice it. Feel the cool, invisible air enter the rim of your nostrils. Notice how it fills the lungs, expanding the rib cage, taking up space inside your body. And then, notice the tiny magical fraction of a second at the very top of the inhalation. Before the breath turns around to become an exhalation, there is a pause. Feel that slight, suspended pause. That pause, that infinitesimal space between taking from the world and giving back to the world. That is the stillness. It is entirely yours. It cannot be taxed. It cannot be stolen. It cannot be rushed by any external force. It has always been there, quietly waiting for your return, waiting through your busy days, waiting through your restless nights, waiting beneath your worries. You do not need to travel to the high peaks of the Himalayas to find it. You do not need to empty your calendar, quit your job, or isolate yourself from the people you love to experience it. You only need to come home to yourself. The world outside will not stop moving. The notifications will continue to chime. The traffic will continue to hum. The demands of life will continue to rise like the morning sun. The world will continue to spin, to demand, to shout, to cry, and to laugh. But you no longer have to spin wildly along with it. You do not have to be a leaf blown helplessly in the wind of society's neuroses. You can be the eye of the storm. The center of a hurricane is an area of devastatingly low pressure. But paradoxically, it is perfectly calm. Birds can fly in the eye of a hurricane. The sky is clear. While the violent winds tear everything apart just miles away, the center remains untouched. You can cultivate this center within your own chest. A quiet, immovable observer. A peaceful, grounded presence that witnesses the chaos without absorbing it. When the noise of life becomes deafening, do not run away. Look inward. Sink into the deep water. Let the mud settle. Rest now in this quiet, profound certainty. Let the silence be your oldest, truest, most faithful friend, and let it walk with you, a quiet guardian of your spirit, into whatever beautiful or chaotic reality tomorrow brings.